Okay, now we're going to talk about what everybody wants to know, but everybody's afraid to talk about, and that's budget. The first thing about budgeting for a modular classroom is that you need to understand is it's just like building any other building. Your final budget is going to be determined by the quality of the materials that you use and the design specifications. But in general, we can review some basic ideas that hold true. Let's start with a typical double-wide classroom, 64 by 24, double-wide classroom that will have two 32 by 24 classrooms in it. So this is a double-wide that has two classrooms in it. The total building is 64 by 24. If you go to most modular building companies and say, how much will a new building cost today in 2014? You're typically looking at somewhere between $65,000 and $85,000 just for the building itself, okay? Now, there's a pretty big range there, but that encapsulates the idea that you have choices for design and finishes, etc. If you go to that same company and you say, how about a 10-year-old building that's been in your rental fleet for 10 years, for a decade? They're going to try to sell you that building somewhere between $45,000 and $60,000. Okay? Now, at Modular Classrooms, LLC, we specialize in buying and selling used modular classrooms. So it is not unusual for us to have 10 to 20-year-old used modular classrooms, same specifications and finishes that you're going to get over here, but those buildings are going to range somewhere between $10,000 and $40,000. So you can see that there's a significant savings. The average double-wide that's 10 to 12 years old is going to run about $25,000 to $30,000. So you can see that there's a significant savings on the building itself. Now, the second part of this budgeting process is the delivery and setup costs. All companies are going to quote you in two pieces, one for the building, one quote for the delivery and setup. We're going to use turnkey delivery and setup that will include everything you need to do to get an occupancy permit. It's going to include architectural drawings to submit for your building permit. It's going to include delivery of that building. It's going to include foundations, assembly, handicap accessible ramps, skirting, electric fire alarm connections to power the building. That figure, depending on where and what you're doing, is going to run somewhere between $25,000 and $45,000 in addition to the cost of the building. Okay? That's for delivery and setup. You're going to pay that whether you're buying a new building or whether you're buying a used building. Now, one of the things that Modular Classrooms LLC does is that we work with you to keep that cost as low as possible. Now, here's how we do it. All of these items that are in the scope of work, the architect, the foundation, the handicap accessibility, the electric connection, all that work is typically subcontracted, whether you're going to a big national company, a rental company, or to us. The difference is that particularly if you are a church or private school, we recognize that family members that are attending your school may be in the general contracting business. Well, guess what? If we have $10,000 budgeted for foundations and you can get one of your members of your church or your school to donate that in its entirety, you just saved $10,000, okay? Even if they do the work for the cost of the materials, you may save $5,000. Likewise, you probably have an architect or engineer that's a member of your church or school. That can save you $2,000 to $3,000 for the drawings that are submitted for permits. If you have an electrical contractor who's a member of your school, that can save you $7,000 to $10,000. So we will work with all of these contractors to help drive down the cost of the delivery and setup. And it's not unusual for us to take this $25,000 to $45,000 and cut it in half or more, because we recognize that many of these schools are working on a very tight budget. And this also goes for public schools, as an example. We will often work with local contractors that the school districts already have relationships with and make sure they understand what they're getting into so that they can present bids that are lower than what they would normally do.